Today, specifically, we will be talking about health and safety from a psychological health and safety point of view. So, WSPS supports organizations to incorporate psychological health and safety into their corporate cultures in order to create a more engaging, more productive, and a healthier workforce. During this session, I invite you to get a better understanding of what we will be discussing mainly, which is vicarious trauma, compassion fatigue, and how it affects us. We will talk a little bit about layering, and then we will talk about prevention and also discuss some ways we can support ourselves and each other. I'd like to introduce myself. My name, as you can see on the screen, is Desiree D'Souza, but I prefer everybody call me Dee. It's easier to remember. And, I make this joke that not only is it easier to remember, but also, people have called me other names. We cannot repeat those names out here. I've been working with WSPS now for close to 20 years. And as you can see, I have an MBA and a CRST, but I've also done my bachelor's in psychology and education. This is just a disclaimer to let people know that a lot of these images, we have gotten them under license from Getty Images, so we cannot reproduce them. This session will be recorded, which means that at some point you will have access to this session on our WSPS website. Okay, before we get started, one of the things I'd request you to do is for us to better understand who is participating in our safety connections, and to make sure that we're actually providing accessible training for people across Ontario. I would like to invite you to participate in a really short survey. It's really short. So what we are doing is we're collecting demographics to find out, to let our funder, the ministry, know, who are the people that are attending these sessions. Again, there is no names that you need to provide. Your response is completely secure and anonymous. Nobody besides WSPS will get the information. It's just aggregate information that we might need to share, but other than that, everything is confidential. Completing this survey is completely optional, but I would request you to do it if you can. So you can click on this link on the screen, and the first question will ask you is a function number, which is this 231733. I'm going to give you all just maybe half a minute to complete it. And once you've completed it, if you can raise your hand just so that I know that you had a chance to complete it, or even if you don't want to complete it, just raise your hand so that I can then move on. So I'll give you half a minute to complete it. Thank you. Thank you for those who are raising their hands. Keep your hands raised for a little bit, just until I ask you to lower it. And if you don't know how to raise your hand, at the top of the screen, you'll see the word raise hand. So just click on that raise hand. That's excellent. Thank you so much, everyone who is completing this. Again, there is no compulsion to fill it. If you can, that'll be great. If you don't want to, that's okay as well. Just raise your hand to let me know that, one way or the other, doesn't matter. Okay, I see quite a few of you have completed it. You can lower your hands if you like. Let's proceed. Okay, so before we get started with today's webinar, I'd like to review some of the webinar housekeeping items with you, right? First, we recommend you use your computer audio with headphones, but if you don't have headphones, that's fine. The phone conference audio details was probably sent to you along with the email that you received. For now, for today, your camera and microphone will remain muted for the remainder of the session. It's just so that there's no interruptions in between, right? We want to hear from you, so your chat is still available. You can communicate through chat, and I will put my email address out here in case after this session you'd like to speak. You have a couple of questions, you can reach out to me. Um, okay, what else? The chat is public and it is seen by all participants. So again, if you want to ask a question, uh, you know, anonymously, you don't want it to be out there, I am going to monitor my emails while I'm talking to you. Okay, so what else is there to talk about? Let's move on to the fact that everybody knows now how to raise your hand in case you did not know and were not available earlier. At the top of your screen, you will see that there is a hand, and it's if you click on it, your hand gets raised so that I know that you have a question. Um, the problem is that right now we cannot unmute you. So the best way to show us what you're feeling is to use the react button. I actually love react buttons, right? Reactions are instant. They float up on the screen. They tell me, if you are happy, you're sad, you find something funny, you love what we are talking about, and a thumbs up, anything that works for you. I will be using some polling questions throughout the webinar today, which will pop up on the screen. Let me tell you that the polls are completely anonymous. Even I won't know who's responding to those polls, right? So please select whatever answer you want or put in whatever answer you want. I like to see what you have to say, right? Um, Sometimes some organizations, because of their security, you may not be able to access the polling questions. Don't worry about it. I can put the questions in the chat as well if you like. Um, okay, what else? You know how to access the meeting chat. I see a lot of you have told me where you're from. It's from as far as Ottawa, the east, to I think Susan Marie, maybe the north, and I don't know what is the south. Maybe Hamilton. No, that probably is east, west of us. So maybe Hamilton. So we have a lot of different locations coming up. Um, I see somebody. Aurora. Aurora is probably a little north as well. Thank you, Nicole. So out here at the top of your screen, you'll see three dots. That three dots means more, right? If you want to turn on live captions, you can. If you want to see a larger screen, you can go into the view, which is at the top of your screen. You can click on that and choose the full screen. My only the only caveat to this is that when you choose the full screen, you cannot see the chat and you cannot see, any polls and stuff, other things that might come up. So if you can see me fairly clearly, if you can see the PowerPoint on screen, I would say let's stick to this, okay? All right. So the Safety Connection program has four main goals: to learn, share, and discover what is of value to you. You are our customers, you are our community. The second is to connect virtually, right? Especially, I don't know how many of you had, I think all of Ontario had this lovely snow blizzard a couple of days ago. And if I were driving to get to deliver this on that day, I think I would not be doing that. Neither would you. So having this virtual community, I think, is fantastic. The third thing is to facilitate a better practice exchange. And what that means is not just us talking to you, but you talking to us as well. Don't hesitate to write things in the chat. I love hearing from everyone about what's happening and how different it might be from what you do on a regular basis. And then the fourth one is to provide an opportunity to attend a health and safety webinar from your personal workspace. Comes back to right to that snow driving that we none of us really enjoy. Um, Jitya, the actual presentation will not, however, the recording will. So then you can review it maybe at a later date. I'm not sure how long it takes to be put up onto our website, but I know that we do. Okay. Okay. So today's workshop, we're going to talk about what is vicarious trauma. We're going to talk about compassion fatigue. Social workers, especially, this is something that you'll face a lot of. We'll talk a little bit about layering and then how of some ways that we think you can prevent vicarious trauma amongst yourselves as well. And it's not just that we're going to be giving you stories, we're going to also talk about some self support. I want to start with this. I really like this slide because when we talk about health, right, most of the times people are talking about health from a physical point of view. What we don't realize that health actually is a compiled of mental, social, and physical health, right? So if we look at the three, it's like that three-legged stool that you sit on, right? If you think about the three-legged stool that you're sitting on, or you might sit on, if one of those legs break or one of those legs are faulty, you're going to be like trying to balance yourself on that stool. In the same way, the physical part is not just about eating and drinking and exercising, right? It is the the health part is not just about eating, drinking, and exercising. The health part includes things like your social health. It's your ability, how you deal with others. And each and every one of you are dealing not only with your coworkers, but with outside people who may have other stressors in their lives. Mental health is how is a person's psychological and emotional well-being. What is going on in your mind? So let's talk a little bit about what are some of the places in the social workers community, right? So there's things like education, outreach. Some of you are working in respite care or temporary relief for primary caregivers. There might be child and family support as well. You all are working for welcome centers, newcomer services, where people might be coming in from areas that have traumatized them or they've come with trauma. And now you are handling them, you are working with them. You might be working for correctional facilities or government agencies, again, where you are dealing with people from different uh, cultures, different ways of life, and different experiences. So, what does that mean? It means that you what you do, but others here may not. So let's dive into it a bit. So your work involves supporting individuals in crisis, where you may face frequent exposure to mental health or mental ill health. You might be facing substance use challenges. Some of your clients may have histories of violence, harassment. So you are the direct support to those clients, to those customers. You're helping individuals, you're helping families, you're helping them with issues of poverty, addiction, mental health, sometimes family crisis. And part of your work might be providing counseling or crisis intervention. So when we think about all the stuff that you do, right? Things like prevention and remediation, where where you might be working with youth at risk or people who are homeless, that very easily could affect your own mental health. And we are going to talk to you about that exactly. But before we move on, I want to put a poll up. But so I believe that each one of us, On a daily basis, we are like batteries. Some days we're fully charged, ready to go. Let's do this. Let's get there. Let's get this work done. And some days, we might be facing things in our own personal life, or maybe even in our work life, or amongst our friends, where we are not fully charged. We're half full or drained. If, I remember when my kid had an accident. I remember that day very, very clearly. That day I was on a high. I was fully charged. I was talking to my boss, and she was telling me all the great things I was doing, and what a fantastic job my I was doing at work. And I got a call on my phone, and my it was my kid calling me. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to cut the line. Yes, gender-based violence as well, Jitya. Um, and so I said, I'll cut the line. And then 2 seconds later, she calls me again. And I said, why did she call? She knows I'm cutting her line means I'm busy. So I asked my boss, I said, can I just take this call? I picked up the call. And remember, I was fully charged at that point in time. I picked up the call and she said, Mommy, I had an accident. I kid you not, from being fully charged, I literally went down to drained, not empty, but drained. And I was like, what happened? Are you okay? And she said, yeah, I'm fine. The car, not so much. So I was like, okay, let's go. I was a little bit half full now. I charged up a little bit because my kid was okay. So my question to you, as of today, right? What is your current battery level? I'm launching a poll, and you can either put the answer in the chat or you can click on whatever you want. It's totally up to you. It might be that you're also, really exhausted from work. You might it's in the middle of the week, so you might be feeling a little drained. And I see that we've had about 18 people respond. We've got about 39, 40 people here. So let's see as many responses as we can get. There's, again, no compulsion. Put in if you feel comfortable to give that answer. Otherwise, not a problem. So it's interesting, right? We see that half of 44% of you are at half full, and that may be because it's Wednesday. It's the what do they call it? The hump day, right? And so we are all a little bit exhausted, waiting for Friday. Um, Or it could be that right now you'll have gone through so much today or this week that you're waiting to get charged, right? 19% are saying, yeah, I'm charging. I'm okay. I'm doing well. 15% say charged. Oh, I love that. But look at the 22% that are saying that I feel drained. It's been a really, really long week. Okay. And thank you so much for all those who did respond. I do appreciate it. So let's look at what exactly is vicarious trauma. Because I think because you all work so closely with other people who are going through primary trauma or direct trauma, as we call it, who have gone through it, and now you have to listen to them and you have to help them and you have to be there for them. We have to understand that how does it impact you. So vicarious trauma is caused by that indirect exposure to somebody else's trauma. You are not in actual danger. No, you are not at the scene of the traumatic event or accident. Instead, those stories are described to you verbally, in writing, or through something that you've seen on videos, social media. Let's say you've seen a reel or a video of wars in countries, fires. Actually, just this week, I saw a video of a fire that took place in my country of origin. And that has been, even though I was not there, even though I didn't know anybody who was affected by that fire, it kind of weighed very heavy on my heart for the last 1 week. It was a sad thing to see. And that sadness, that vicarious trauma, can happen at any time. It can happen through some debriefing, or if you're listening to a coworker. So it's not just your customers, it could be, or your clients, it could be that your coworkers come in and told you, today this is what I saw, this is what I faced today, right? You could be involved in counseling, and maybe an abused victim, or reading some case files. And when you are looking at those case files and hearing graphic testimonies, when you might be watching a disturbing movie, or some kind of traumatic footage on televisions, right? That can actually be affecting you, and not you may not even realize that at times. Client stories, hearing about a suicide, for example, that may have occurred at a workplace, or listening to stories about an attack on a coworker at a work site, can also affect you. We are deeply impacted by stories. We don't realize how deeply we are impacted. We don't realize that somebody else's story can actually impact us. So, vicarious trauma is also known as indirect or secondary trauma, right? And as I said, it can happen at any time. So, let's look at some definitions, okay? So, work, social services work, you guys actually fall under an umbrella. That umbrella is called helping professionals. Y'all are there to ensure that people are kept safe, right? Their well-being is kept safe. The mental and physical health is kept safe. And this type of work requires a lot of empathy. So what happens is that a lot of professionals actually, and I'm not saying anything that you all don't know, right? This type of work, you all have to be a little bit empathetic. So most professionals will often absorb that emotional weight of the stories that they hear. And over time, doesn't have to, it can happen one time, it can happen over time. It can lead to vicarious trauma, that secondhand trauma. It can also lead to what we call compassion fatigue. But we'll talk about compassion fatigue in a bit. So, what happens sometimes is that work related traumatic grief, we carry that trauma home. I'll tell you a story of a caseworker that was working in a woman's shelter. So one evening, one of her clients described, years of partner violence, and that person described it in very vivid details. This caseworker supported her through the crisis, but afterwards, at that point in time, she supported her through the crisis, but afterwards, she came out feeling very shaken. And over the next week, she became, a little jumpy, loud noises were startling her. She found herself, scanning parking lots now and hallways, something she never did before. And she even began double checking, her locks at home. She wasn't in danger. She actually lived in a really good area of Ontario, but her nervous system was now reacting to what she had heard. Traumatic experiences of others can actually affect us in many, many ways. Loss of a coworker, or loss of a mentor or a leader. I remember my boss had been laid off, and they walked him to his car. And I remember sitting there, I still had my job. I remember sitting there and thinking, oh my goodness, uh, I like this guy and I like my boss. He was a good boss. I've lost a good boss. And that and he's lost his job, and what is he going to do, and his wife doesn't work, and they don't have another income. And it grew bigger and bigger until I came home, and I'm very blessed to have a good family that understands the kind of work I do in not things as well as right. So when we look at some of these experiences, we have to understand that it will affect us. Direct exposure refers to what is happened to you directly, right? Something that you face. If you were facing, somebody waiting for you in the parking lot that made you feel unsafe. But for the most part, we look at the idea of what is vicarious trauma because of the kind of work that you do. Let's talk a little bit about layering. So when we think about layering, we think what can happen? What does layering even mean? So these are some of the things that can affect us, right? Personal circumstances. We all have a personal story, a life story, right? Some of us are brought up in that home where they say, suck it up, buttercup, get back to work, do whatever you have to do, and get going. And some of us are coddled and taken care of. Our coping style depends on some of our personal circumstances and what is happening in your personal circumstance right now, right? You might be going through a divorce. You may have lost somebody close to you. You may have something as simple as a sick child, or you might be feeling a little bit ill yourself. It's cold, the weather's up and down, so you don't know what's happening at this point. So your personal circumstance might be one of the layers. Then the next layer could be work-related grief and loss. So maybe a customer, thank you for the thumbs up, a customer passed away, or as I said, my boss was fired, dismissed. Somebody might be retiring, or somebody might have unexpectedly decided, I don't want to do this anymore. And the loss of that close work relationship might be the other layer that might come. Direct layer might be, being a victim of a crime, maybe experiencing a serious medical crisis, or being threatened or assaulted at work. And somebody mentioned earlier gender-based violence as well, or experiencing some kind of a hate crime. Then there's the indirect one, the one that we were talking about, vicarious, where we have Facebook, we have social media, we have the internet, YouTube, Reels, all of these things, television, newspapers, where we are reading, we are witnessing graphic testimonies. I know that when the US started talking about tariffs, I know that a lot of people, even though nothing had happened, nothing was happening, people still had their jobs, everything was, hunky dory at that point in time, uh, people were affected. So the other layer started coming up. There's also compassion fatigue, and we'll talk more about compassion fatigue. But basically, the word itself talks about what it means. You are a compassionate and empathetic group, and at some time, at some point, you too might face fatigue. Tired. I'm tired of this. It's that gradual erosion of things that keep you connected to the work that you do. And then there's the system failure. I'm sure you guys are going to raise your hand if I ask you this question about how much has red tape affected the work that you do. Either you go, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up to say, has red tape affected the work that you do? Yeah. I can see hands going up. I can see thumbs up. And what does that mean? It prevents people from getting that best care, right? Might be those large amounts of tedious paperwork, waiting for help at the hospital, waiting for help for somebody to approve something. this actually can result sometimes in moral distress when you actually might do something that is not necessarily the right thing in order to get things moving. How many times people have resorted to things like bribes or yelling, screaming, losing it, that moral or not necessarily moral or any kind of distress where you need to just get that out and tell people, hey, listen, this person or this group needs help. Why are we taking so long to help them? System failure, everything works so slowly. And then we're talking about layers, right? All those layers happening. And what about your work conditions? How do you experience or perceive your workplace, your relationship with your supervisor, your co-workers? What is your perception of the fairness that might be there in the workplace? Are people actually appreciating you? One of the things that we talk about, we call them psychological workplace factors, is reward and recognition. Are people actually rewarding you and recognizing you for the work that you're doing? How many of you, raise your hand, how many of you have had somebody say, good job in the last week? Good job, you did a great job. Okay, I see a couple of hands going up. Right, so we have 4 people, 6 people, 7 who've said that, who've had pat on the back or good job said to them out of 40 people. So think about that. Think about, and I suck at math, but I think that's 1 out of 10. Correct me if I'm wrong. And when you don't get that appreciation, how do you feel? You're working really hard. It's not just about salaries and rewards and benefits and vacation, right? It's about the working conditions sometimes. It's about some of those 13 workplace factors that we talk about. Things like civility and respect, recognition and reward. What is the culture in your workplace? How much do you get to be involved in your decisions? Then there's the socio-cultural context. And that's where somebody mentioned earlier, right? Gender-based violence, things like race, culture, sexual orientation. It doesn't matter what our beliefs are, but you see that people look at you differently if you are different, even though you might be doing a fantastic work, a job, right? So what can we do, and how does that affect us? That layers and layers and layers and layers, to the point, that we have that saying, the straw that broke the camel's back. It's one little thing that can actually cause you to collapse. uh, having a disability as well, yes, absolutely. Everything that comes under the Ontario Human Rights Code, including disability, right? When we see that, I see that a lot. We target one area. Oh, these are bad drivers. We look at nothing. Oh, these people only drive taxis. We look at another area. Oh, these people make great food. We kind of put people into little boxes, and then those boxes that we might be put into, right? We have a tough time getting out of those boxes. So when we look at some of the things that layers, it can affect us. I'll give you another story. So there was an addiction counselor, and they supported their customers through relapse after relapse after relapse. And she really cared deeply about their recovery. But every time they fell back, right, she felt very like it was something personal. And when we look at this layering, right, so it might have been uh, indirect, or it might have been compassion fatigue, it could have been system failure, could have been many reasons, that where at one point she began skipping lunch breaks, staying late, taking on extra clients. Eventually, she felt completely drained. That battery that we were talking about earlier was completely empty, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And she actually started fantasizing about leaving the field altogether, even though she was so good at her job. So, how can vicarious trauma or secondary trauma affect us? So, secondary trauma is associated with with work related secondary exposure, right? We already spoke about that. So, what are some of your symptoms that you might be feeling? For example, that anxiety and fear. Oh my goodness. Oh, I have to get this done. Oh, this person won't get the solution they need. You might be starting to have some difficulty sleeping. There's a feeling of sadness in your heart. I was telling you, when I saw that fire that destroyed an entire building, there was there was a heavy burden on my heart for 2 days. For 2 days, and even now they're sending, they're talking about people who lost their businesses and about the people that passed away, and that sadness is I haven't gotten rid of it as yet. We start thinking, okay, is the world really safe? We don't trust what's happening in the world. We don't trust what right now, especially if you think about it, right now we're looking at the world, what's happening in the world, and we're thinking, are we safe? We're doing all this work, we're doing all this great work, but are we safe? We don't have any control of what's happening in the political scenes of the world. And then what sometimes can happen is now you start withdrawing from your co-workers. You start withdrawing from your friends and family. You don't want to interact. You don't want to go for parties that normally made you happy. You don't want to go hang out with friends. That social health of yours is affected because of your mental health. You're talking about the three-legged stool. That three-legged stool means that all three legs are important: physical, mental, and social. And when your mental health starts getting impacted, it does affect your social health. And in the same way, it then starts to affect your physical health, because you know what? I'm going to stay at home. I'm going to just sit down in front of a television, switch channels, eat all the junk food that I can find, and just chill, because I think that's a great way to chill. We try to avoid things that remind us of the event that has caused that effect on ourselves, and our empathy goes down. We don't want to care so much, because the more we care, the more we feel. So let's stop feeling. And then there's that burnout where you say, and absenteeism, where you think, I can't do this today. I'm going to stay home and I'm just going to watch television, or I'm just going to stay home and sleep. So let's talk about how could you prevent yourself from facing vicarious trauma. So first, let's talk about setting healthy boundaries. When you are talking with your customers, your clients, or even with your co-workers, remember, it's not just clients that might affect you. Remember, it's not just, and we talk about boundaries, but we talk a little bit more about other things as well. So let's start using phrases like, I'm sorry you're going through that. I want to support you, but right now I can't hold everything. This is heavy for me right now. Now, it's easy for me to say that, of course, because I'm not doing your job. So you may not have the ability, or the you cannot say that to your clients. Maybe use words like, have you been able to talk to someone who can give you the help you deserve? I'm the one. If I'm the one, then let me direct you to someone. And if I can't do it today, then maybe I let my supervisor know that today is not a good day. Clarify your role, remind yourself, and sometimes remind others as well, that you are there to help them. You're there to assist. You're not a therapist. some of you might be therapists. I'm not judging. I'm not, pointing a finger on that. I'm saying for those of us who are not, I am not a psychologist. I am not a psychiatrist. So trying to solve everyone's problem sometimes is definitely beyond me. So maybe use words like, I care about you, but I'm not the right person to unpack this with. Notice early signs of emotional overload on your own self. Start start analyzing your own self. I know that I start feeling a tightness in my chest, right? I get extremely irritable, which means that there's two ways that I can react. I can start yelling, which is usually a clear sign that things are overwhelming me, or I can go extremely quiet. And I'm not a quiet person. Let me just tell you that. I'm not a quiet person by any standards. So if I go extremely quiet or if I start yelling, something's not right. So when you start feeling that shift of that emotion overload, maybe you need to take a step back. Another thing is that we would recommend is, encourage that shared responsibility. Don't take everything on yourself, right? You can talk to them about, do you want advice? Are you talking to me to as a distraction, or is it just a quick vent? Sometimes your clients might come up to you and say, oh, I want to talk to you about something and I want to tell you this. Okay, fine. But what do you need right now? Do you want to just vent, have a conversation, or do you want me to help you? Because if I help you and you don't, you keep on, not following what I'm telling you, I'm going to go face. I'm not telling you to tell them. I'm saying you are going to tell yourself, if they don't listen all every time, I'm going to face compassion fatigue, and I don't want to go there. I really like my job. I really like doing what I do. Practice some grounding practices. What helps ground you? And the most important thing, sometimes you have to say no. You're not rejecting anybody. You're not rejecting your supervisor. You're not rejecting your client. You're just protecting your capacity, your battery, so that you can show up in a more sustainable manner, right? And maybe build better relations as a result. So this band-aid that I showed, that put up over here, is basically to say that you need to care for yourself. You need to protect yourself as well. As great as your work is, you are not going to be able to do anything well if you yourself are struggling. Let's talk a little bit about how we can prevent vicarious trauma. So sometimes you may have heard a disturbing story from your coworker. Your all work sometimes close to each other, right? And that may have caused vicarious trauma. Sometimes you may be the one causing the vicarious trauma to your coworkers, right? So think about this. Who's your buddy at work? Who's the person you go to when you are feeling down, depressed, agitated, or even overwhelmed? Who's the person that you maybe have lunch with? Remember that while you may need to lighten your load, you may be actually making someone else's load heavier. So be self aware. Be aware of the stories you tell and the level of detail you want to provide. Are all the details really necessary? Can you give an abbreviated version? My husband will, if he's telling me a story about something that's happened at work, he will go from A to B to C to D till he reaches Z. And I'm like sitting there, okay, you could have told me this in like 3 sentences. And that's fine because he wants to tell me a lot about what's happening. But when we think about things that are traumatizing, can we abbreviate that story a little bit? Also, if you're telling your coworker or you're telling your friend something, give them a fair warning. let the listener know that, prepare for or brace themselves by starting with, you know, maybe I want to debrief a difficult situation with you. And the story does have some, things that might be traumatizing. Um, I remember a family member once telling me that when her partner passed away, somebody came up to her and said, they were the ones who gave her the news, and they came up to her and said, hey, Jack, let's call him Jack. Hey, Jack had a heart attack and he died. And 50 years, 40, 30, not 50, she's not that old, about 35, 40 years later, she says, I still remember those words. There was no, there was no warning. There was no helping me brace myself for the worst. Jack had a heart attack and he died. Whoa, what are you talking? What are you saying? Right? So it doesn't just go away. Ask for consent. Ask for permission. Sometimes they might be going through something themselves, right? And now you're layering, you're layering for them, right? So ask them. I want to debrief something with you. Is it a good time? Or maybe I heard something really hard today. If I talk to you, I need to talk to somebody, and if it's okay, if you're in a good, ask them. If your battery is at least charging, if nothing else, I can let me I want to debrief with you. Also, limited disclosure, and I know most of y'all have that the confidentiality clause, right? So decide how much to share, starting with the least traumatic information, right? So I think if I was in that lady's position, I might have said, let's sit down. I have to tell you something. We've just come back from the hospital, and then talk about what happened before letting her know that her husband had passed away. To decide how, before you actually open your mouth, and I don't even need to tell most of you or all of you this, but sometimes we don't realize, right? Let's start with the least traumatic information and gradually progress as needed with the more graphic details. All right, let's talk about compassion fatigue now. So there may be some aspects of um, emphatic strain in your personal life. A lot of a lot of people are now in what we called the sandwich generation. What does that mean? That they are looking after the old elderly parents and they have younger children. So they are right in the middle of the sandwich. And when we look around us, sometimes we start becoming, numb. There's so much being thrown at us, become numb. So let me give you an example of a case worker that felt deep sadness and worry, but eventually they noticed that they weren't feeling much of anything. So when a client shared a traumatic story, this caseworker found himself nodding mechanically. Yeah, okay, all right. And then okay, what else? What else? And he just couldn't connect emotionally. So he later realized that his emotion that this was what we call emotional shutting down, right? It was that protective response. That is a very clear sign of compassion fatigue. You start getting irritated by other people's stories, or you're so exhausted. Oh my goodness, no longer able to draw empathy, to listen to others. I hear this all the time. You stop caring. It's a kind of an emotional burnout. Actually, it is very closely connected. Compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma, burnout, they're all interconnected. You start saying things like, I've heard worse. Yeah, really? Okay. I've heard worse things than that. Oh, that's not a big deal. Compassion fatigue can also happen when you keep hearing somebody over and over again and in your mind, you're thinking they're not doing anything to change. They're not doing anything to get better. I remember a friend of mine, and actually, this friend for the last 2 years has been saying, "I need a better job. I need a job. I can't manage my home with the job that I have." And I know that they really cannot. But every time I send a job notice to her, or every time I say, why don't you do this and why don't you do that, she'll say, oh, the economy is bad and the jobs are not there. I'm sending you a job. Why don't you apply? Oh yeah, okay, fine. And she'll just take out a standard resume and send it off. And I think at one point it was beginning to bother me. I was not feeling anything for her. So I had to take a step back. I had to take a step back, and because it was really impacting my mental health. It's very difficult in the kind of work that you guys do. It's very difficult to be in that sweet spot, right? The spot where from one end where it says, I don't care. I don't care. I don't want to care. Too bad, so sad, or to the other part where you're over involved. Let me help you with this. Let me do this. Let me send the resume, and let me tailor it for you and send it out for you. Or let me take you to the addiction center, and so that you can get help. Let me drive you to wherever you need to go. We have to be in between somewhere. That sweet spot between I don't care and oh, I'm too involved now. So how can you support yourself in a distressing situation? Sometimes we have to pause, right? Stop and notice what you are feeling without judgment, without judgment to your own self, without judgment for others. Because sometimes we are so hard on ourselves. Like we think that, oh my goodness, I'm not doing enough. Let's stop. Let's pause. Take a few deep breaths. Let's 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 take a breath, become aware of the tension in our body. Take those deep breaths to acknowledge that you are going through something. Then let's reset, right? Reset is not meaning that, okay, I have to walk away. Reset is let's engage in a short activity to shift from that distress to a more steady state. How can I do that? So there's different ways, right? Maybe use grounding, like, let's sit and actually feel your feet on the floor. Visualize that calm place that you are are at peace at. Maybe it's Mexico, where the water, you see there's the water and the sand and the sunshine. Maybe that's your calm place. What I do, I'll tell you what I do is I get onto my phone and I find a comedy show and listen to a funny clip, or gently redirect your negative thoughts with some self-compassion. We are not compassionate with ourselves. We feel a lot of compassion for others. Let's also talk about nourish, right? So nourish yourself with positivity, things that actually replenishes that mind, that body and spirit. And you're thinking, okay, how do I nourish myself? Start thinking about your strengths. In fact, at this point in time, I am going to launch, if I can, I'm going to launch one. Think about a moment recently when you felt proud of yourself. What was it? You can put it in the chat because it might be a lot to write, but I'm going to launch this so that I want you to write and tell me, what was it that made you feel proud of yourself this week, this month, 1 year ago? What are some of the things that actually you said to yourself, Hey, I did a great job doing that. That was a really good thing that I did. I'll give you all a minute to do this, maybe less than a minute. You can write a whole story, you can write 2 lines, you can write 2 words. I'm okay with either one. Okay, somebody passed the exams. That's great. All right, what else? What else? Lunch break. I like that. You felt proud that you actually took a lunch break. Love it. Facilitating a workshop. You know what? I think that is one of the difficult things to do, and I'm going to give you a high five for doing that and feeling proud of yourself for doing it. Go to the gym. Heavy snowstorm. Is that the fact that you had to shovel and complete the shoveling during the snowstorm? Okay, that's interesting. I love that. Knitting. So one of my friends has taken up crochet, and I know that that is not an easy thing. New patterns. Great. Leap of faith. That's an interesting one. Oh, my bad. I think sometimes when we have these work clouds trees, you can't tell can't read the whole thing. Okay. Decisions, some of the decisions that we made. Passing your exams, I see keeps moving. Client. So doing something with the client has made you feel very, very proud of yourself. I love the fact that you notice that we have people writing. We have 12 responses so far. But how many of you had to sit and think, what am I proud of? I can't think of what I'm proud of. And the reason is because we don't give ourselves a pat on the back enough. We don't tell ourselves, I am so proud of what I've done today. I'm so proud of what I've done this month, this week, right? We don't really give ourselves the opportunity to say, good job, great job. So out of 40 people, we've got 17 responses, which is great. Literally, I say great. But I'm willing to bet that a lot of you are thinking, that's a tough question. I don't know. I wasn't really thinking about it. We should start reflecting on our strengths, recall those meaningful moments, feel gratitude and feel proud of what we do. So there are 3 steps of self-compassion, right? Did you know that when you repeatedly practice these small steps in neuroplasticity says that repeatedly practicing small steps actually helps rewire your brain. And we don't know that. We don't know. We don't know that we can rewire ourselves, right? So mindfulness. Spend time, recognize the emotion you're feeling, and just notice that this is the moment of suffering. Be mindful about it. Be mindful about judging yourself. Connectedness is identifying your feelings as a normal human experience. We are so tough on ourselves. We're so tough on ourselves, right? Right? We say, no, I'm supposed to help these people. How can I be going through all this stress? I have to know. Stop. And we don't connect with our own suffering. Suffering is part of life. And also remembering that everyone makes mistakes. So everyone goes through suffering and everyone goes through some issues in their life. And be kind to yourself. Ask yourself, can I be kind to myself? And the answer should be yes. You have to support others. Now let's support myself. Don't be so critical. I was being given my daughter was giving me um, you know, encouragement and saying, "Good job, mom," about something. And I was like, "No, no, no. Actually, I was trying to explain to her that it wasn't me that was the cause of that good result. It was because this happened and that happened." And she said, "Mom, just take the compliment." Oh, yeah, I can take the compliment. I should take the compliment, right? Why shouldn't I? So, how can you support your coworkers? Let's start with, let's say you come across a situation where someone is struggling with a trauma that they have experienced. What could you do? Uh, uh, so, how can we? So, hot. And I'll tell you something that I went through a while back. I Many years ago, there was a coworker who at she was sitting. So this was here was the reception, and she was sitting behind, not at the reception area, but behind the reception area, where there was a glass um, separating her from the reception area. She was not the receptionist, and I think whatever she was going through, that layering that we talk about, overwhelmed her that day, and she just sat down and she started crying. And we were in a very corporate environment, where people were coming in, businessmen, and it was, and she was sitting right there at the reception crying. And we thought, okay, what's happening? Like, what's happening? And she wouldn't. Everybody was coming and asking her, talking to her, and she didn't know what. She was not responding at all, just bawling her eyes out. So, what can we do? If it was your coworker, if it was your client, if it was your friend, what would you do? First thing is go get to safety. So hot means get to safety. Make sure that you and others are physically out of immediate danger. Sometimes when people are overwhelmed, they might they might pose a little bit of danger. So move them away from the incident, right? Move them to a neutral place, a spot where they, that is not where they 10 people in their face. So get them and get others in a safe area as well. The next is to walk. Walking actually helps discharge stress. Did you know that? When I found out about it, I thought that's such a great thing. But we think of walks as, taking walks for our physical health. So walking actually helps discharge the stress. Start walking, maybe at a brisk pace. Offer some water. What water does is it gives the people that's going through that issue, it gives them an opportunity to calm down. It ignites that parasympathetic nerve, and it helps to release adrenaline and stress, allowing that person to actually to control the pace, or control the situation. And then the third thing is to talk. So process the experience. Encourage them to talk, right? Encourage them to talk about what's happening. And sometimes they'll want to share, sometimes they might not want to share. It's up to them. In that case, I did take her to a separate room. I made sure that the door was left open, right? We want to keep our own safety in mind as well. And then I talked to her, and she didn't want to talk. She didn't want to tell me what was bothering her, but she said, "You know what? I'd like to pray." That worked for her. Okay, let's pray. Whatever works. So let's talk about now, what do you do to support yourself? We talked a lot about supporting others, right? Let's talk about what do you do to support yourself. Let's talk first about your physical health, right? Physical, social, mental. So physical health. How much sleep are you getting? Are you scheduling time to relax? The person who said that they actually went to the gym, that gym visit actually probably helped relax you more than if you had sat at home and shoveled your driveway. So great, good. Schedule some relaxing time for yourself. What kind of foods are we eating? When we are going through stress, generally we will reach for what is easiest, and that could be a snack. that could be junk food, that could be something that I don't want to do anymore. I don't want to cook. Let's just order in. So let's talk about nutrition. Are we eating plenty of fruit and vegetables? Are we eating food that's cooked at home, perhaps? Water. Ooh, that reminds me. I haven't had a sip of water in a while. How many glasses of water do you drink in a day? And if you don't like drinking water, and I've heard lots of people tell me that, you can add flavors in there, which are not like zero sugar. Squeeze a lime, put some fruit in there, right? What else can we do for ourselves? Now, I said minimize and avoid alcohol and smoking. Now, I'm not saying avoid it completely, and I am saying minimize. Right? I'm not going to be unrealistic and say, oh, stop smoking, stop drinking. No, it's about minimizing it so that you don't feel that you have to, you know, depend on it. Do some exercise, stay active. I will tell you, I was the most laziest person that you ever met in the, well, maybe not ever met, but really lazy, right? I was that person that if I was going to the grocery store, I would drive my car around the parking lot 2, 3 times if I had to find the closest parking to the grocery store. Then COVID hit and I had nothing to do. I didn't know what to do. I had no friends that I could visit. So I started walking. I started walking and I realized I actually enjoyed it when the weather's good. Not today. Today is like minus, I don't know, rubbish minus. Um, but I enjoyed it to the point that I actually ended up walking up a volcano in Italy. And my kid was shocked out of her, like she was just completely shocked because she didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I could do it, but I did it. Remember, something is better than nothing. If you don't feel like you're doing it today, maybe you'll feel like doing it tomorrow. Maybe you'll feel like doing it for 5, 10 minutes. Do it. Let's talk about supporting your mental health now. I saw that some of y'all had written yoga. Yoga is a very good way to actually calm your being. So yoga, meditation. Did you know that coloring actually helps calm people down? I did not know that. And I went into a seniors home once many years ago, and I saw that they were bringing coloring books for them, and I thought, coloring books, they're a bit old for that. Says no, it actually helps. So find a hobby. Some of you have found knitting. Some of you, some people have started crocheting. If that's not your thing, pick up a book, read it. Whatever helps you calm yourself down. Mindfulness, that digital boundaries. How many of you have this with you all the time? Whether you're out on the road, whether you're at home, this sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming as well. So maybe curtail some of it. Listen to music and dance. Ooh, I tell you, I love dancing. This is me. I will be hobbling on a cane, and then the music comes and like the cane is there, and I'm because it actually helps calm me down. I know somebody who actually does journaling. Journaling, and they don't write like long stories or the whole day. It's not like a dear diary kind of a thing. They literally just write one good thing that happened to them that day. Just one good thing, right? So for some of you, when I asked you, what are you proud of? And you said, oh, I was proud that I went to the gym. I was proud that, I made a decision, a life decision, life changing decision. So write that down somewhere. Because what happened, so they don't journal it necessarily in a book. They write in a piece of paper and they put it in a jar. And then on days when they are feeling really, really low, they pick out those good things that happened to them to help them remember that, hey, you know what? I've had good days. This was a really good day that I had. Okay, let's try something. I'm going to ask you all to do something. I want you to think about how you are feeling right now. Maybe you're feeling stressed, happy, sad. Maybe you're worried about something, right? Maybe you're worried about whether you turn the oven off at home or unplugged your curling iron. That's something my kid does all the time. She'll message me, Mom, can you please check if I've unplugged my straightener? So if, whatever you're worried about, what I want you to do now is to sit up straight and plant both feet firmly on the ground. Place your hands on your legs with your palms up, right? If you are comfortable to do something, do this. Gently close your eyes. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit of calming to mellow you out a little bit. So I want you to first relax all the muscles in your face. And I want you to relax the back of your head, your neck, your shoulders. Next, I want you to relax your arms. Now focus on the feeling of your hands on your lap. Relax your chest. Relax your back. Relax your hips and relax your belly. Now, relax your thighs and your calves. Relax your feet. Focus on the feeling and sensation at the bottom of your feet. Now I want you to switch your focus on the most obvious sound in the room. And I'd like you to release your focus completely. Gently open your eyes. Think about how you are feeling now. Think about the fact that you feel even a little bit relaxed. That was less than a minute. That was less than a minute of calming your body and your mind. Imagine what you could do in 5 minutes or more. The intention is to take a break. Take a break from your thought process, take a break from whatever is exhausting you. Take a break. Focus on your other senses, on your hearing, on your touch, and the fact that can calm down, recharge yourself. Take those 5 minutes every day whenever you feel that you are feeling overwhelmed. All right. If you want to put in the chat, tell me how were you feeling. I'd like to hear. I saw a lot of you giving me a thumbs up, show me a heart. I would really like to hear in the chat how this less than a second of calming exercise, how did it help you? Okay, so we talked about physical. Thank you, Basma, for putting that down there. We talked about physical, and keep writing, please. I just want to make sure that I let you all out and give you all enough time to ask questions if you all have any. We talked about physical, we talked about mental. Now let's talk a little bit about social health. I'm glad that you all felt more relaxed. Let's build that social support network. Who is your social support network, right? Is it your family? Is it your co-workers? Sometimes family doesn't understand the kind of work that you might do. And sometimes the co-workers might not understand what you're going through at home. So you need to build a network that can help you in both cases, right? Spend time with family. Okay, let me pause there. Spend time with family that is not toxic, because we know there are toxic families out there, right? If you have a family that is toxic and is always putting you down and not understanding what you're going through, you don't need that. You don't need that. You can stay away from that, right? So spend time with family that uplifts you. Meet your friends. There's so much of relaxation and um, mental health is so closely related with having good friends. You know, the younger generation, and not, I'm not categorizing them in any way, but I have a young adult in my home, and the younger generation, their way of friendship is online. But when they actually meet in person, it is like, oh wow, we're having so much fun. Meet those friends, have that fun. Consider adopting a pet. Okay, an animal. Consider adopting an animal. I will say that I should have, if I say pet, I already have two pets in my home, my husband and my kid. I don't need any more pets to look after. But if you would like, if you feel that you love animals, adopt a pet. I know I have a friend has three dogs and she loves each and every one of them. I think maybe more than she loves her own kids, right? Because they don't judge her. They love her unconditionally. Remember, you are helping others, but you might need help as well. Don't worry about the stigma. Oh, I'm a social worker. I shouldn't be going out and asking for help. No, you might need it more sometimes than your clients. So if you need help, seek that relevant help. Okay, these are some ways that WSPS can help you. We do offer trainings. We have a lot of trainings. I only put in a few that we do. So mental health awareness. We actually can come into your workplace and talk about mental health and help you as well as your clients. We can talk about mental health. We can talk about stigma. We can talk about stress with your workers, with your clients. Uh, a lot of what we do is free. Trainings, depending on what it is can also be free. Right now, we can offer trainings on balance, building resilience, psychological safety. We also have one for managers of how managers should respond if they are faced with, workers who are distressed. And right now, if you click on this link out here, WSPS till the 31st of March, we are offering a bunch of safety trainings for absolutely free. So maybe consider doing that as well, right? Some of the resources that we recommend are on the screen, along with links for consulting. Just be aware that all those who did join in today, you will get an email with the link and with all of these resources at a later date. Jessica is not here right now, but I know that she's planning to do that in a day or two. So when you leave this session, what is one thing that you will do after today that you may not have been doing before? Can some of you please put it down in the chat? I'd like to know what's one thing you would do after sitting on and listening to me talk for more than an hour. Let's see what you think you can do differently. I'd like to hear that. I'll wait for a bit. So, Buji, I can see your hand raised, but I cannot unmute you. So you'll have to put it in the chat. I'm sorry. This is the for safety connections. We cannot we cannot unmute. Oh, I love that, Sarah. Making time to decompress, even those 5 minutes. Remember this one less than a minute, what happened and how you felt. So give yourself that minute or couple of minutes. Choosing consent. I love that. Limited disclosure. Listen to myself when I need to step back. Take time to journal every night. So you don't need to do a long journal, Therese. You can just write one good thing that happened to you and then do those walks. I love that as well. Seek help if needed. Absolutely. Specialist. Take a break and recharge. Ooh, lovely. And watch my colleagues and offer help if needed. I think that's so empathetic of you, Nicole, because sometimes we are so into our own selves. We don't notice what others are going through. Take a break, a better understanding of vicarious trauma and its effect on me. Thank you, Cassandra. And I see there's more people. Give me the opportunity to rest and enjoy. Okay, one more question. What will you share with your peers? This is not only about you learning, right? This is about you going out there and telling people. And peers does not necessarily mean your co-workers. Peers can also mean your friends and your family. Sometimes they don't realize, they don't know what they're going through. So not skip breaks and lunches. I see that for the first question. If you want to add, what would you share? Might be the same thing that you've already written, and that's fine. But if you think about it, you don't need to put in the chat. You can think about, hey, I learned this much. Let me share with others. Okay. All right. Any questions from anybody? We have 10 minutes for questions. And while you all are thinking about questions, and maybe you all don't have any right now, I'm going to put my email address again in the chat. I think when you get the email from Jessica, will also have my email address. So if you have any questions, feel free to write to me. Otherwise, thank you very much for attending this session. We really appreciate you being here. Hope you had a good time and a good rest of the evening, afternoon.